Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. It means we're brought to you by Immense. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Sally back there on the ones and twos. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Glen West talking Will Wade press conference as well as some LSU spring football in 30 minutes. We'll talk to Sharif Ishak about the Saints in an hour and a half. There's kind of a change in the administrative situation with LSU athletics that Michael Caldwell talked about a little bit yesterday and that he got from LSU AD Verge Osbury yesterday. I heard that sound now that I've had the chance to go back and listen to everything. And I want to talk about that coming up at 2 o'clock. There's a mock draft out on ESPN.com and then a best fit for each player that's supposed to go in the first round. What lines up with the New Orleans Saints. We'll do that coming up at the end of the hour. LSU and Southern tonight from the box. So this is the time of year where there's just always a lot to talk about. It's my favorite time of the year. Let's get into some spring football. I'll tell you what I saw. It's our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive. Presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
It's week 2 of LSU spring football. Tigers back on the practice field today, had the shoulder pads on, had the helmets on. There's a little bit more contact today than what I had seen last week. Not tackling, not anything violent, but certainly some guys blocking. There was a little bit of more physicality at practice today, I think is fair to say, in our 20-minute viewing period. I did something today that was unintentional, but I felt like it was kind of valuable, and I'll let you know how that kind of went. I forgot to bring my roster in to the 20 minutes today, which is not the end of the world because I don't look at it a lot while I'm out there. I do numbers. It's very difficult right now for all of us to keep up with everybody because there are so many new faces and because a lot of them are far away. So what you're doing is trying to put as much stuff down in your notebook and then redigest it after you're done. And so you don't do a lot of name stuff anyway. But candidly, and I talked to Matt about this after practice, he feels the same way, and I'm confident that most of the guys on the beat feel the same way. If you watch 5 wide receivers run through and run slants, you probably can't name 3 of the 5. Maybe you can. I can't. Now, I certainly can write their number down, and I know who all these guys are when I go and check the roster, but when I was going to LSU football practice in 2011, if 5 guys ran slants, I knew who all 5 were because 3 of them had been there for 3 years. One of them was a 5-star freshman, and the other one I knew was a walk-on. Like, this is a new era of covering practice, especially when it's spring. None of these guys have played in games. At wide receiver, Phillip Wright is one guy. Nobody else has ever done a practice at LSU. It's tough. So I say this to suggest, like, I don't know who these guys are when I watch them go through a rep. I know who DJ Pickett is. Got it. I know Prince Willoughby-Yellen's number 1. I didn't have any trouble with him. I know Ty Benefield is 2. I got that one figured out. PJ Woodland's 11. Devon Keys I can spot very easily. Like, there are guys out there I certainly recognize, but a lot, especially on offense, where they overhauled the whole thing, like, I don't know. So today, when I realized I had forgotten my roster, I went, okay, instead of taking roll real fast, why don't I just see who stands out to me? I won't know who they are. I won't know where they came from. I'll just see what stands out, and then I'll write it down, and I'll go check and see who it is when I get back to my desk, and I've got the roster in front of me. And so I did that. And it actually worked out because I was watching wide receiver, and there was a guy that stood out to me with his fluidity and route running. He made a ridiculous one-handed catch on a fade route. There was no defense on him, but it just showed the hands. The speed, like, he just looked really good out there, and I wasn't 100% sure who it was. I get back to my office, Jace Brown, Kansas State. The fastest Kansas State Wildcat ever to 1,000 yards, sophomore record holder in receiving yards at Kansas State, massively productive in the Big 12. Figures to be a big part of what LSU's doing this year on offense. Jace Brown absolutely stood out. Now, the position group we absolutely get the best look at while we're there because they all work daily in the same spot on the field, and we're only allowed to walk the perimeter. So the offensive line is like 125 yards away from us. If the closest you can get to them is like 70 yards. You can't really get to the offensive line. The running backs are right next to us. I mean, I was in the drill at one point on accident. They started laying out cones for the next thing they were going to do, and I had to move. We're right there with Kevin Smith and the running backs. And I know who Caden Durham is, no issue there. And I know who Harlem Berry is, no issue there. But you realize that they brought in 4 transfer running backs, and I don't know them based on what number they're wearing. I have no idea. But I looked over, and I have it right here in my notebook, 13, really physical. It was obvious. And 13 is Dylan Jones. Dylan Jones, the Wisconsin transfer, is significantly bigger than the other running backs you brought in. You went and got Rod Gainey. You've got Harlem Berry trying to put weight on him. But if you look at the roster, Harlem Berry is 5'11", just like Dylan Jones, but Harlem Berry is 187 pounds. Dylan Jones is 211. It's almost 25 pounds of difference between those two guys. And Caden Durham is up over 200 pounds, but he's only 5'9". Jones is 5'11". So Jones also goes through a lot of the drills first. That I don't think is a big deal. It's March still. Doesn't apply tomorrow, but it's March right now. And so I don't think it's a huge deal that he's going through the drills first. But he is different than the other backs. If you're looking for differentiators, he is different than the other backs. And so I think it makes sense to suggest he could find a role as a more physical back in this LSU offense than perhaps Harlem Berry, than Rod Gainey, than Racine Guillory. Like, he's just bigger. So that obviously stuck out to me. I was talking to Matt after practice, and to him, he goes, hey, who's 3? He stood out. Trey Wilson from the Florida, former 5-star, goes, he looked really explosive. Matt was in the same deal. He didn't have his roster with him either. And that doesn't impede our ability to take notes. I've got all kinds of numbers right here, but I didn't know while I was out there. So there's no way for me to know who's a 5-star, who's a former 1,000-yard receiver, who is a walk-on. There's walk-ons out there that from 40 yards away, going through drills, look the same as some of the scholarship guys. Now, they're not, but some of these guys stand out, and I thought that was impressive. Now, some of the other things that I noticed at practice today. Sam Levitt, worth noting, was out there, as we expected, had the shoulder pads on, going through all the drills first as a quarterback, throwing the route tree. They were working on the read option mesh point with the running backs at essentially full speed, and Levitt would give, and then he'd jog off to the side, looked okay doing that. This is the first time I saw him sit out of a practice rep. They got into a shotgun formation as it looked exactly as like they were working the read option reps, but instead the running back was aligned to the left of the quarterback. They snapped to the quarterback, and the quarterback just ran off left tackle with the running back as a lead blocker. And Levitt didn't do those reps. Not surprising, but noteworthy. We're out there 20 minutes. We're monitoring Sam Levitt. He's throwing every rep. He's doing the read option stuff. He's not out there for 11 on 11, and he's not doing the quarterback sprint stuff. That's almost the last thing for him to do. It's like the last few boxes to check are going to be running, cutting, 11 on 11. Like, that's probably your last 3, I would guess. So right now, not doing the running portion of things. Landon Clark and who's on Longstreet are handling that. Trey'Dez Green was in a black jersey today. I've never seen an LSU player in a black jersey at practice. In Les Miles' time, the no-contact jerseys were green. Over the course of the Ogeron Kelly eras, the no-contacts were yellow, and the quarterbacks were in yellow and have been all spring, and were in yellow today. Trey'Dez was in black. I don't know what that means, but I can tell you that the first-team offense went out there to run 11 on 11 in a very high-speed walk-through thud period. It was not overly physical. There was nowhere near tackling, but just kind of get the juices flowing a little bit for both guys, 11 on 11. And you saw Trey'Dez Green was not participating in that. You saw the Pittsburgh transfer, Malachi, didn't write it down. The Pitt transfer, he was out there handling things as the tight end. Now, when I looked at the defense as LSU was running that 11 on 11, I found this to be interesting. They went to their dime package. In the dime package, Devon Keys came off the field at linebacker. TJ Daugherty was the only linebacker in the middle of the defense. When Keys came off the field, onto the field came Jakeem Jackson at outside corner. So the former Florida transfer, veteran player, he played on the outside. You saw P.J. Woodland bump inside. So you had Jakeem Jackson and DJ Pickett at the corners on the outside. You had Jakeem Jackson inside at the nickel, and you had Deshaun Spears playing at the dime, where he has played. You can call it the star, you can call it the dime, whatever. That's where he played last year when he had the couple picks against Florida. And then in the defensive backfield at safety, you had Tamarcus Cooley and Ty Benefield. So your back end of the defense in the dime was Jakeem Jackson, DJ Pickett, P.J. Woodland, Deshaun Spears, Tamarcus Cooley, and Ty Benefield. That is a remarkable amount of athleticism for LSU on the field at one time. Now, that's going to apply when they're playing against teams that are spreading the field, teams that are 2-minute offense, teams that are down 20 points in the fourth quarter. That's when you're going to get this load of defensive backs out there, and that's what you saw here. Up front, you saw the guys that have been on the ends the entire time as the first team, Jordan Ross from Tennessee and Prince William Onmielen from Ole Miss. Those are your two edge guys. And the interior, that's swapped a little bit. But one guy is playing in the middle more than the other guys with the first team, and that's Deuce Gerald's. I am still, in the second week of spring, not ready to assign Deuce Gerald's a starting job, as I think you're all very comfortable understanding. But he is out there with the first unit. And make no mistake, this is the first unit. Daugherty led the SEC in tackles last year. DJ Pickett and P.J. Woodland are LSU starting cornerbacks. Lane Kiffin has talked ad nauseum in 2 press conferences about Ty Benefield and his prospects. Tamarcus Cooley started last year. Like, these are your starters, and Deuce Gerald's is running with them. Next to him today was Dominic McKinley. We have seen other players in that spot, but they were the 2 guys out there with the first unit today. So that's a look at LSU's defense, and I think that's interesting. It's noteworthy to an extent, but it is ever-changing. And so I thought that was all the most noteworthy nuggets of the 20 minutes we were allowed out there. We're back out there on Thursday. I will note this. Lane Kiffin met with the media today. I was not there. LSU loves to have press conferences at 12 o'clock when I can't go because I got to get back to do a show. Can't go to Will Wade's intro press conference. Can't go to any Lane Kiffin stuff. Can't do any of the player interviews. I'm here. But I did watch Lane Kiffin's press conference today, and Kiffin did say to open the press conference that he wants open lines of communication with the media as far as access to practice, and as he termed this, the off season, he's calling spring the off season, we may get some more. And I've said this 50 times, I'll say it again, I don't believe Lane Kiffin owes us any access. I welcome anything that he gives us. And I think that you, the consumer, whether it's the written word on LouisianaSports.net or it's the video aspect on YouTube or terrestrial radio, I think it's good for you if we get access. And it sounds like he's open to a little bit more as we move forward. I think that would be a great thing. I don't expect that to continue in the fall, and you understand why. Lane Kiffin also today was asked about a spring game. Jacques Doucet from Channel 9 asked him, and he said, look, the spring games were getting televised. There was also a portal window right after spring games, so you could have coaches that theoretically could take that as valuation of players, and you're making a very sizable investment in a lot of these guys. You don't see the NFL doing a tackle scrimmage in April. And so we're not going to do a tackle scrimmage in April with as much invested in some of these guys as you had. And I don't hate that. Like, the spring game has never been the end-all be-all for me. I know a lot of people just like a fix of football at that time in the calendar, and I do understand that. You're looking at a guy that will absolutely go watch LSU baseball scrimmage in October, so I get that whole thing. But that's a dangerous thing to go do in football. So it doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but maybe a little bit more access for us, the media, to get you content as a listener and a viewer or a reader coming up in the coming weeks. So hopefully that is the case. That's a look at LSU spring football. All of our spring football coverage at LouisianaSports.net and, of course, at Hunt on LSU on YouTube. When we come back, let me get you ready for LSU and Southern. I've got some specific talking points on this game there's one aspect of this that is like the actual game and what LSU needs to do to beat Southern at baseball. But there's also another aspect of the game tonight that I'm looking to see. So I'll get into all that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC. FabryChevrolet.com is the website. FabryChevrolet.com. You can start your buying process online at FabryChevrolet.com. You can see their entire inventory, new and pre-owned. You can see the incredible deals they have. You can see all the features on the vehicles that are on the lot. That's a great way to start your buying process at FabryChevrolet.com. But I highly suggest you get on up to St. Francisville and check them out on Highway 61. The Fabry family's been at this for 35 years. They pride themselves on their customer service and on the buying experience. I think most people have had an unpleasant experience purchasing a vehicle. It's just same as anything, you may feel like you're being taken advantage of or that you don't have all the information, that somebody's being a little bit pushy, and that's a natural thing to have felt over the years on a car lot. It's not going to happen at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. So go on by and see them. Make that short drive from Baton Rouge. See why they've been in business for 35 years. Why they've been a trusted name with the folks here in Baton Rouge. And see why they got great deals. Up to $11,000 off a Silverado, up to $13,000 off MSRP on GMC Sierras. Great deals on trucks at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Check them out at FabryChevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Auctioner here to remind you that it's Colon Cancer Awareness Month, at least for one more day. Colon cancer is very common cancer, but it is preventable and treatable when it is caught early. Screening can detect precancerous polyps before they turn into cancer. So if you're an adult, starting at age 45, it's time to start getting those screenings. If you got a family history of colon cancer, perhaps you need to start a little bit older. Even if you feel healthy, screening can still be very important. Colonoscopies are the gold standard. If you're at a low risk, there may be some other options for you, but talk with your provider. That is very important. They can help determine the best choice. So how do you do that? Well, you make an appointment at Auctioner Health primary care provider or with a GI specialist and start that conversation. Ask about your personal risk, and early detection can save lives. Schedule that appointment at auctioner.org/schedule. That's auctioner.org/schedule or through the My Auctioner app. All right, LSU and Southern tonight from the box. I'm not here to tell you how tough a game this is going to be for LSU against Southern. Could be. Southern beat LSU 2 years ago, hammered LSU 2 years ago. Southern beat McNeese last week. I think we're all aware of what McNeese did when they came to the box, gave LSU its first loss of the season, and kind of started this downward spiral a month and a half ago. But this is a game LSU should control. Southern is not very good. You're talking about a team that's 10-16 that has significant problems throwing strikes and has a bad RPI. Jay Johnson said 2 weeks ago when they played Grambling, this was a must-win game for us. And I told you what I thought he meant by that the next day. I don't know what he meant by that, but what I thought he meant by that was that I don't think we're going 19-11 in league play. I don't think we're going 21-9 in league play. I think we're going to be in the middle of this thing. And that means the margins are going to matter. If you saddle yourself with a 300 RPI loss, McNeese, no, not Ole Miss, not McNeese. Southern is 270-something in the RPI. Now, that'll go up a little bit tonight because they'll play a team that's in the top 100. But you don't need to saddle yourself with a sixth non-conference loss to a team with an RPI of 271. So don't do that. So how do you make that happen? Well, if you're talking about the actual play on the field, Southern will be the most aggressive running team that LSU will have played all season. They have 75 steals this year, which is more than Kentucky, and it's on 95 attempts. Now, I realize that the teams Southern play don't have future pro prospects at catcher like LSU does with either Aaron Beatty or Cerna, but still, stealing 95 times and being successful 75 of them at this point in the calendar is a significant amount, and you've got to make sure that you're paying attention to that. So Whether or not Aaron Beatty plays, and Jay Johnson said last night that he's had a little nick and that he may be available tonight, and that kind of lends me to believe that Aaron Beatty will probably play. That Cerna will probably play if Aaron Beatty is hurt a little bit. But Southern, if they get guys on base, is going to run. For LSU, I would pitch out a little bit. I would certainly lean on my left-handed pitching a little bit. I don't have to worry about Southern bashing the baseball all over the yard against Santiago Garcia or Omar Cerna or DJ Primo. Any of these guys, like you gotta favor some left-handers here that can throw some pickoff moves. I think at this point in the game, LSU throws 8 or 9 pitchers every midweek anyway. I would get some of these left-handers some innings against Southern to make sure that they're not running all over the place. That's the aspect of the X's and O's in this game. Like, I could tell you about Southern's pitching staff, how they're atrocious throwing strikes. You think LSU walks a lot of hitters? They do. They're 100. They've walked 135 this year. Southern's walked 185. They've walked 50 more than LSU. LSU has hit 37 batters. Southern has hit 48. So they're giving out free bases ridiculously, and I think LSU needs to pay attention to that, take your walks, and get the win. What I'm looking for tonight may be asking a lot, and it may be irrelevant. I may be reaching. It's possible. But I saw something on Sunday that I think this team can use. I think this team can use a little juice. I don't need a 35-foot bat flip every single day, not on Tuesday against a SWAC team. I don't need Jay Johnson bowing up to the opponent's pitching coach and getting in a war of words 3 times during the game every day. But sometimes it might be the day to make that happen. And maybe Sunday was the day to make that happen. So today, on a Tuesday, against a SWAC team with a losing record in front of what's probably going to be 2,500 people, I would like it if LSU brought the energy. I would like it if LSU played with significantly more energy than Southern. I would like it if you hit a leadoff double and fired yourself up to the dugout. I would like it if a pitcher got a big strikeout and was fired up about it. I would like it if LSU played with more energy than Southern in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh innings tonight. I would like that. That's not something I don't think I've ever said on this show about a midweek game, especially against a SWAC team that LSU should theoretically beat by 10 runs. But this feels different. This team has been in a month-long malaise. There's been so much negativity, so much poor play, so many frustrating defeats that sometimes you just need to maybe break out of it with some juice. And again, I don't need LSU to go to Knoxville on Friday and act like Tony Vitello's team for 3 games. That's not what I'm asking. But this is one of those games after you have a big emotional win on Sunday. You feel like you break through offensively. Dardar's hitting the baseball a little bit. You get some big swings. That you might come back on Tuesday without that juice. Because, well, we needed it against Kentucky. Now we're going on the road to Tennessee. It's a team that we played in Omaha over the years. It's a team that we had a big series with last year. Maybe you're already looking towards that, and that's something this team can't afford to do. You can't afford to just roll the bats out there today. This team's not good enough to do that. They'll walk too many guys. They'll kick it around on the infield. They'll make a throwing error. They'll hit too many guys. I need LSU to be laser-focused and full of energy tonight, and I'm going to pay attention to it. Again, I don't think I've ever done a segment like this involving a game like this one. But I just feel like it might be noteworthy tonight. So I don't know who gets the ball. Maybe it's Jaden Newt. Maybe it's Reagan Ricken again, even though he hasn't been great in his opportunity to start the games. I'm not as concerned about that. It's important for LSU to throw it over the plate. It's important for LSU to take some walks. It's important for LSU to hit the ball hard. And when you do it with some emotion. Do it with some juice. You don't have to taunt to play with emotion and energy. You don't have to get into a jawing match with the other team to play with emotion and energy. Channel it within yourself. I've seen too much midweek malaise from this team. I've seen too much malaise, period, with this team. I know a lot of people were questioning leadership and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's ambitious for players to do that if you're not in the locker room, if you're not in the meeting room, if you're not in the team huddles, if you're not with the team in batting practice. Like, whether or not you can determine if they have leaders or not, I think is ambitious. It's sometimes just an easy cliche people will toss in if a team's not playing very well. They don't have the leaders. Do you know that? But I can know whether or not they play with energy tonight. And you're playing a team that you're miles better than. Just take care of them. Just go beat them. Don't have to taunt them. Don't have to draw any umpire warnings or get anybody ejected. Just go play hard. And I'll be watching that for LSU tonight. LSU and Southern, 6:30 is the first pitch from the box. You want to listen to it, you can on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. That's the flagship home for LSU sports. It'll be Chris Blair on the call this evening. Again, pregame at 6 o'clock, first pitch at 6:30 from the box. When we come back, Glen West talking Will Wade, talking spring football, a little bit of baseball as well. We'll hit it all with Glen coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Gotros Outdoor Power. Gotros Outdoor Power. Family owned and operated by the Gotro family. You might have guessed it. For 22 years. Baton Rouge location on Airline. And, of course, in Gonzales as well. When I say family owned and operated, you might think, well, that's a little mom and pop shop there. That's a little small shop there. A little small operation. Not even close. Largest parts inventory in the state of Louisiana. If you're looking for a part for that zero turn, that lawn equipment, you can get that from them. And they're the largest hustler dealer in the state by far. So if you're looking for a zero-turn mower, as the spring months are officially upon us here, then go by and see them at Gotros Outdoor Power. If you don't have a trailer, that's okay. They can get that lawnmower to you. They've got trucks on the road 8 hours a day, just about every single day. They've got on-site financing. 0% is available. They can get you behind the wheel of a new mower for about $100 a month. It's a great deal. It's a great family. It's a great operation at Gotros Outdoor Power. You can find them online at gotrosonline.com or go by and see them Airline Highway in Baton Rouge or in Gonzales. That's Gotros Outdoor Power.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. You can find them online at fabt.com. You don't have to look that hard to find them. You can find them anywhere in Southeast Louisiana. 25 locations throughout our area. Been running for 116 years, since 1910. Bank local with First American Bank and Trust. They've got that community feel that you're looking for. The folks that work in there and make the decisions on your commercial loans as well as your personal loans. They're local. They're from Southeast Louisiana. They go to church with you. Their kids are in school with yours. And that doesn't mean it's a small bank. It's not. It's 25 locations in our area. They've got the capabilities that the big national banks have when it comes to your commercial lending. So if you're looking for a commercial loan, looking for a personal loan for that house, First American Bank and Trust needs to be your stop. Stop on by and see them. Or check them out online at fabt.com. That's First American Bank and Trust. Let's talk Tigers. Glen West, senior writer at Go 24/7. Good enough to give us time on Tuesdays. Does so now. Glenn, how are you?
Doing well, Hunt. I'm just bummed LSU's not really giving us a whole lot to talk about this time of year.
This is my favorite time of year. I say that every year. That sometimes they hire a new basketball coach, sometimes they hire a new football coach. Baseball team's always playing. There's just a lot of content, and it's easy to keep things fresh. So let's talk about basketball first. You were in the PMAC yesterday. What was your overall impression of that and of Will?
Yeah, it definitely felt like, I guess, kind of as you were in that building, a rallying cry for the program. I mean, obviously, this is somebody that is very highly energetic, has a lot of energy in terms of just how he wants to convey his message about, this thing getting back on track quickly. And look, I think we saw, a lot of really fun moments from Will Wade. He's always good for a good quote in there. I particularly like the one where he talked about them making history, whether it's hanging banners in championships or being the only coach to be fired from the same school twice. I thought that was a really fun little jab at himself that he really typically likes to do and has done, throughout his career. But I just, I think he's going to have the resources here to build something pretty special. I think, right from the start here in year one, he spoke about just how maybe this first year will be maybe a little bit more in terms of the commitment and the financial part of it, that they're going to have to, find a lot of new players here in a very short amount of time. And he talked about just his SEC, like refamiliarizing himself with the SEC and how to find players with the toughness and the grit and the competition that they really want to find consistent success. I think positional versatility will be a very important thing for him. Guys that can play multiple spots on the floor in the transfer portal coming up here, but. I also thought there was some real genuine moments there. I thought the question that Scott Rabolet from The Advocate asked him at the very end there about, why, an element of this being, does he feel like he owes it back to LSU and Louisiana to in terms of coming back and feeling like he has something to give to this state and to this program. And he basically said, yes, absolutely. That was a part of a factor here. He's got great friends. He's got great benefactors here that are going to help him build what he needs to from a basketball sense. But, the fan base really rallied around him the last time he was here, and that's never really stopped, even since he's been gone. And I think that's an element to this that meant a lot to him and probably a piece of why we're sitting here today.
I was trying to think of coaches that had been fired that had the approval rating that Will did, even after he was let. I would imagine like Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern would be in that category, but I can't think of many others that have been dismissed in that way and that have been kind of accepted the way that Will is. And I think you saw that in the press conference yesterday. And what does your gut tell you about the next 5 years of LSU basketball?
5 years? I don't know. I think he wants to take this 1 year at a time. I think for me, I'm kind of in that same boat. I'm interested to see what kind of players that they bring in over these next several weeks. I think the commitment that they have from a basketball sense is going to make that very, very fun to kind of follow here over the next month. But look, I think that he's won everywhere that he's been, right? I mean, he made the tournament 4 out of 5 years, or I guess would have been 4 out of 5 years. He was here at LSU. He very quickly built McNeese back into a program that is a consistent NCAA tournament, winner or appearer in that conference. And then, he did the same thing at NC State, getting them into the field of 68 last year. So I expect that the expectations are that he can build a roster that can compete in the SEC and try to make a run here very, very quickly. So. I think it's going to be interesting to see the other piece to that is just the retention element is in terms of how many guys that they can bring in this year that might want to stay beyond just this year. I think that's going to have to eventually be a part of this program. But right now it's just about getting guys in here that can compete and play in this conference and do it in a very fun, stylistic way that Will Wade has always seemed to turn out here at LSU.
Let's talk football. You were out there on the practice field today. We don't get a ton, but you've now gotten upwards of an hour at this point. Is there anything that has specifically stuck out to you about the football team through a week and a half?
Yeah, I think for me, probably just getting a good look at this offense and just some of the structure, how they've kind of structured this offense here to start. I mean, I think Landon Clark's been a very impressive player so far. He's been getting a lot of the first team reps, quote unquote, that we've been out there for. I think he's, we only get to see these guys throw against air when they're out there, but I think he's somebody that's, got some good velocity on his football and is hitting some guys in route and with their timing and their rhythm. And so I think he's been very impressive. I actually had a question today to Lane Kiffin about the running back room because, we know Harlan Berry, we know Caden Durham. We don't know much about the 4 guys that they brought in from the portal outside of those 2 guys. And they've been very impressed with how those guys have kind of developed. I think Dylan Jones is somebody that you're going to have to keep an eye on. He's kind of more of your ground and pound bruiser kind of a running back, very physical. But I also think that they feel like there's going to be a lot of competition in that room here going forward. So, I think offensively we have a pretty good idea. It was good to see Stephylon Green make an appearance today. He had been out the first week of practice with some kind of injury. I think he's kind of working his way back now. But those are just a couple things. I think there's still a lot that we can learn here over the next 3 weeks. But and hopefully we might get a full practice here. I mean, Lane Kiffin today came out right from the start and said, he wants to get our feedback on how much practice access we should have or could have, and he mentioned something about some media not really wanting all that much access, and I think all of us at the very end of it were like, no, bring it on, bring on as much access as we can possibly handle. So maybe we can get with Michael Bonnet and those guys and give us a little bit more substance here beyond individual drills.
That would be good. We'll see if that happens. Let's transition over to baseball. Down 7-0 on Sunday. They found a way to come back and get it done. How big a deal was that?
I think it was a big deal. And just as a side here, I don't know that I've ever seen Jay Johnson as frustrated or as irate than those first 2.5 innings on Sunday. I mean, he was going through all the emotions early in that game. His team did not come ready to play. He said as much in the postgame presser. But, at one point, I believe there was a stool that was picked up. I don't know what happened to the stool, but where we're kind of angled, we can't really see the deepest part of the dugout. But he was yelling a lot of different stuff at pitchers, trying to get them pumped up and trying to get them through some rough spots there. So he went through all the kinds of emotions there. And by the 4th or 5th or 6th inning, it was mostly diverted towards Kentucky, and everybody's seeing that viral clip going around from his Sunday back and forth there. But I think this can be a real turning point for this team. I mean, we've seen them get down like this before, not really punch back, not really have enough in the tank to get themselves back into this game. And 2.5 innings in, you're down 7-0, and then you go on to outscore Kentucky 17-3 from there. I mean, it was a really well executed final 6 innings, and it started with obviously John Pearson's grand slam. Seth Dardar had a nice 3-run homer in there that gave him the lead, and they never looked back. So I think offensively you have some stuff that you can build on from the way that Sunday game ended, but it's just about an element of consistency, because we've seen the very bad of this team, but we've also seen the very good, and we really saw it in that 9-inning stretch there against Kentucky on Sunday.
It's hard now to go back this far because it feels like it was 3 months ago, but Kason Evans got off to a bad start against Kentucky. He walked a guy on 4 pitches. He hit the next guy on 2, and he just struggled with his command for the first 3 innings of that game. He got it through 6, but he struggled. To me, he's the most important piece of this thing moving forward, considering the consistency that William Schmidt is pitching with. He's giving you about the same thing every week. Is there someone else that you think is as important as Evans, or am I on the right track there that he's got to be the biggest part of leading this team out of this?
I don't think you're on the wrong track there. I would probably throw in Zach Cowan's name, though, too.
Yeah.
I think his role is going to be critical, especially here in the short term when you don't have Cooper Moore. I know they're expecting him to come back at some point this season, but the way that Cowan's pitching right now, he can win you games at the end of a game. Like if LSU was in a tight game this weekend on Friday or Saturday, I think you're going to see Cowan pitch the rest of the way, whether that's the final 3 innings, the final 4 innings, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There is an immense level of trust right now in him and what he's been able to do for LSU the last 3 or 4 times he's been on the mound. So I would say that's a very integral piece as well. But yeah, for sure. I mean, Kason, we've seen now for 2 weeks the absolute best of Kason Evans and probably the absolute worst of Kason Evans. And so can he find that middle ground? Can he find that consistency to be more of the guy that we saw, a week ago? I'm already blanking on who that was against. Oklahoma, I think.
Yeah.
And can he get more to that consistent level? And I think it's in there. Like we've seen it. We've seen it last year. We've seen it at times this year. I know that he's very hard on himself, and he's a guy that's always working and always grinding. And so I'll be very interested to see what his bounce back performance looks like this weekend. And he's going to have to give you something. He's going to have to give you something this weekend to have a chance at not only winning a game but winning the series.
Glenn, we appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks, Don.
Glenn West, senior writer over at Go 24/7. ESPN.com says there is one player whose perfect fit is the Saints, and it's not a guy that I've talked about. We'll do that next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Looking for that Generac home standby generator? Time to talk to the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running it for 40 years, and the difference in buying from Boudreaux's and buying from the big box store is very, very simple. It's the customer service. You buy from Boudreaux's Electrical, you're buying from a local company that's been here for 40 years. There's going to be a local crew installing it. It will be monitored locally. If you need a repair, that'll come from a local company. In Boudreaux's Electrical. That's what you need, because these generators, you never know when you're going to need them, but they need to work when it's time. So you don't want those big box stores who have no idea who you are or when you bought it in charge of coming in for maintenance. If you buy from Boudreaux's Electrical, that's who's going to be doing your maintenance. But if you've already purchased a Generac home standby generator from the big box store and you're not happy with the customer service, you can get the Boudreaux's Boost and let them take over that part of it. 985-397-1562 is the number. That's 985-397-1562, or in the 225-300-9389 in Gonzales, or you can do the easy way and go to boudreauxelectrical.com. boudreauxelectrical.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Tuesday shows are brought to you by Immense. You can find them out at immense.net, immense.net. They've been around for 20 years. Right here in Baton Rouge, they can help you out anywhere from Lake Charles to the North Shore and Slidell. If you're a business that's between 50 and 150 people and you feel like your IT group is always overwhelmed, just let Immense help. Like, yes, they can help you with bugs and fixes that your general IP folks can deal with, but they also have experts in QuickBooks and Salesforce and other CRMs, and they're here to help you create solutions with technology to help further your business. So don't think of Immense as just, oh, my computer's broken, they'll fix it. Think of it as a group that is more than happy to come in and help your business grow with information technology. That's the difference when you work with Immense. You're talking about folks that are here from Baton Rouge, LSU grads that are here to help you with your information technology as a business. They're online at immense.net. It's immense.net. I wanted to get into Saints talk here, but I don't have enough time, so I'm going to bump that into hour number 2 because there's a mock draft and there's a best fit for players, and they feel like one is revolving around the Saints, and they're both at the same position, and it's not wide receiver. It's not offensive line. It's not in the secondary. It's not a running back. It's another spot, and I want to get into that a little bit in hour number 2, so we will do that. I'll spend a little bit of time here on the Will Wade press conference from yesterday and kind of the fallout from that, and we'll get into the LSU athletics plan in hour number 2, which I find to be very, very interesting. But yesterday, watching Will Wade, it just felt very genuine. And that's something that I don't think anyone outside of Baton Rouge or LSU would say about Will Wade. And if you check Twitter, and you check Facebook, and you look at the national feeling towards Will Wade and LSU, it's very predictable. He's the black sheep. He wears the black hat. But here in Baton Rouge, he doesn't. And I'm not here to put a lot of credence behind NC State fans' feelings. They're not going to look at this reasonably and rationally. The guy came to NC State, sold him a bill of goods in their eyes, and then left after a year for a place that they deemed to be beneath them. And so they're not going to handle that well. You're not going to hear an NC State fan say, oh, well, he probably liked it there. We'll be okay. Bummer. They're just not going to be capable of having that type of reaction. So I'm not even talking about the NC State part of this. But you see Dan Wolken jumping on and finding a clip from Will Wade's press conference and suggesting that he says, oh, come on, bro, when he talks about the exit. And my thought is this, and I realize that people that would watch this and listen to this outside of Baton Rouge would think the same about me as I do about those people at NC State and just say, well, they're reacting because their blood runs NC State Wolfpack red and they can't be rational. And they would look at me and say, well, his blood runs purple and gold and he can't be rational. I think I can. And I can suggest that Will Wade would rather coach at LSU than NC State. He's done it at LSU. He's done it at NC State. He would rather coach at LSU than NC State. And that became apparent to him near the end of that season, which is not uncommon to Will Wade. It happened with Lane Kiffin. It happened with John Sumrall. It's happened to many, many coaches across the sports in this calendar. You make a decision that you want to listen. And I think Will Wade did his job at North Carolina State. I think he wanted to win games at the end. They didn't win a lot of games. I think he wanted to win games. He could have left for LSU whether they beat Texas or didn't. I don't think he's throwing games or not working. But I think he decided he wanted to listen to LSU. And for those that said, well, just be truthful, just be transparent. In the middle of an NCAA tournament run, you think he's going to go knock on Boo Corrigan, the athletic director's door, and go, hey, man, we got a game against Texas. We're going to fly to Dayton here. But LSU's been calling my representation. I just want to let you know that. That's not how this works. Whether you're in accounting, sales, no matter where you work, if someone approaches you, hey, I'd like to speak with you about an opportunity, you just listen off to the side. You don't set off bells and whistles and sirens at your current place of work. And then when the time comes to make the decision, you make it. And oftentimes, that's going to make your now former employer upset, but that's just part of business. I criticized Lane Kiffin for his exit from Oxford if he did, in fact, tell the administration at Ole Miss, you let me coach in the playoff or I'm taking your entire staff. Like, that's not how I would want to leave a place. I would not do that. And I criticized Lane Kiffin for that. I don't think Will Wade did anything of the sort. I think Will Wade coached at NC State for a year, tried the best he could, did okay, and then once the season ended, got a phone call from a place that he'd rather be at and left. I just don't think it's that hard. I don't think the fact that he was paying players 7 years ago impacts this decision-making. It's just my thought on it. I just wish people would be a little bit more rational at times, but it's not what the internet's for, I guess. We'll come back after SportsCenter.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge, swingeasygcbr.com, swingeasygcbr.com. Membership options are available at Swing Easy. If you're going, well, membership, what you haven't talked about that a lot. I've talked about it some, and it's a great opportunity for you. If you want to be a member so you can have a spot, you get hours at the beginning of the month, complimentary with your membership. You can also become a corporate member, and you can share that between your staff. You can entertain clients there. It's a great place to go hang out after work. It's a low-stress environment to hang out. Doesn't involve a 5-hour round of golf, maybe just an hour hitting some golf shots with a client. They've got cold drinks there. You can listen to some tunes, play some Pebble Beach. If you haven't looked into a membership, go to swingeasygcbr.com and look through the options there. If you're not interested in being a member, that's okay too. You can go on by and hit some balls, play Pebble Beach without being a member. Swing Easy Golf Club, Segan at Perkins, swingeasygcbr.com.